Yeah.
I'm going to press record now, okay?
Okay.
Can you see the screen?
I can see record on the screen, yeah.
All right. Sure. All right. Let's do this.
Okay.
All right. So, Benny O'Brien, how are you?
I'm very good, Stephen. How are you?
Not too bad. So we don't really know what this is, do we?
Not really, no. It's, I suppose I have a fair belief in the team I've put together. I don't know where the conversation is going to go, what I'm going to say about certain players along the way, but genuinely, I picked 15 players that, for me, if I had these guys in a dressing room in front of me picking a team as a manager or a selector, I'd be fairly confident that this team could do a bit of damage.
I think so as well. I've obviously, because I compiled the presentation, I have already prior knowledge of team. In my opinion, man, extremely. Again, in my video, if you watched it, I said like about balance. You know what I mean? And that's what I see throughout your team. Some nice. It was well thought out. So listen, Benny, say hello. There's Mervyn Clendenning. One of your old
Good old Merv.
That was a good day. I'd say you drank a few pints that night.
Yeah, we look at. I suppose I'm very lucky in my lifetime to be, well, first of all, involved with Slashers as a player growing up, to get involved with the club, then to work on radio for the guts of 30 years. Since 1990, I started on Shannon's side, and then to be a selector for Slashers with Dennis Connerton from 2010 to 2015. We did 6 years together. And one of those great characters that you meet along the way is Mervyn Clendenning.
Oh, 100%.
Passionate club man. I know his son was very much involved on the team, and that's kind of what increased Mervyn's involvement. But he'd just do anything for the club to ensure that success was around the corner. Great guy, great character, and I'd be extremely fond of Mervyn. And I'm glad you put that picture up because that's a special picture on a very special day.
I think so. Yeah, I remember the night. I think I was in a McKeown's that night, and Mervyn, you couldn't see a happier man. It's
yeah.
You know. So let's go. Let's move on and see what we have. Right. So we're going to do a bit of a warm up. I have one question. Do you go into the dressing rooms after you do the warm up, or stay out? What would your preference be in that case, Benny?
I wouldn't have had a preference until I worked with Dennis Connerton, because the last thing that Dennis wanted before you went out on the pitch was that you were absolutely pent up, you were full of aggression, you had the game plan very firm in your mind. Dennis was a huge motivator. He was a great man to speak in the dressing room, and I think if you have that asset, if you're a good man to convey a message, and you can do it with passion, I think that's the last thing that should be done. So therefore, I would say back in for the team talk, the finals, the big team talk. That big team talk should be the last thing.
I think one of the dangers in that case is that you do too intense a warm up before you go in, and everybody's sweating so much, and then you get in there and it's so hot in there. I think if you're going to go back in, for me, it's like do a nice warm up, but nothing overly intense. Save that then, and then get, as you said, get fired up then with the manager, and then head back out, and then finish off your warm up with a couple of sprints before you hit the field, you know. But definitely, so you're a go back in and get riled up kind of man.
Yeah, I suppose.
But if you have, as you said, if you have the asset, if you have the person, yeah, man to do it. So, what's the key to a good team?
I think a team that listens to the management, that adheres to the game plan. Because with Slashers, we very much had a game plan under Dennis. It nearly always involved bringing back a forward. It meant a forward sacrificing his ability maybe to get on the score sheet. For example, Trevor Clendenning, who was picked in the forward line in every Slashers team, I say that I was involved with, or midfield, always nearly ended up as a sweeper in the middle of the defence. And, he stuck to the game plan. He knew what it took to win a championship because it had been drilled into him by Dennis and the management team and Slashers. So a good team is a team that listens to the plan, adheres to the plan, and when the plan is working, you've got to do that. You can't be an individual when you've got a team plan set out. But you do need good individuals. You do need good individuals on that team to carry out the plan. So it's a mixture of
need
talent,
a good
but
manager
also
as well, that they trust that the plan is the right plan too. That they believe in the whole thing. You know what I mean? That they're completely on board, and as you said, then people will do anything for the team.
Yeah, well, look, at the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as they always say. And the proof was there. I mean, Slashers sauntered through that championship in 2010. We beat Mostrom 20 points to 4 in the semi-final. I mean, we knew the plan was working. It was only a matter of making sure that we didn't veer away from the plan on the biggest day of all. So a good team. Exactly. A good team is a collective group of individuals who all have the skill, all have the fitness levels required, but all are willing to sacrifice part of their own game for part of the bigger picture, which was the team game.
Excellent. And what do you look for in a player then? What would be your characteristics of the players? What do you like in a...
I love aggression. I love a player that doesn't go over the top in terms of aggression. That knows exactly how aggressive he can be without conceding a foul or without getting a booking. I also love a skillful player. A player who can run onto a ball from 30 yards and just be that little bit elusive. The likes of Stephen Phillips, Podgy Davis would be your example there. Rian Brady, great ball winners, great men to just peel away from a defender and receive a long pass. There's different types of players that absolutely. I love a midfielder who can catch a ball clean, burst through, maybe lay it off, take it back, pop it over the bar. I'd be thinking of the likes of Darren Gallagher there. So there are different attributes that make a good player, but it all depends on where he is on the pitch. But certainly, I think fitness levels, skill levels, and that ability to just do something special when it's really needed.
Excellent. All right, do you want to start your team?
Yeah, I think we better.
Goalkeeper, let's go. You went for Colin Farrell of Longford Slashers. Fill me in.
I did, and I could have put any of the 4, the honourable mentions there that we can see on the screen. Damien Sheridan, Gordon Horican, Paddy Collum. Gordon played in goals for Mells. I think he won a Leinster medal in '94. He established himself as the Slashers keeper from a very young age. He played in the 2010 final. Could have put him there. Damien Sheridan, another great goalkeeper, a great motivator, a little bit eccentric, but you need that. You might remember any time an opposition had a penalty, he used to go and kick his cogs off both uprights to kind of put the forward off. He just had that little bit of psychological edge on forwards. Very, very good keeper. I didn't put him in because sometimes his kickouts let him down. You could be guaranteed that 3 or 4 would go over the sideline in any game that he played in. Paddy Collum, another great keeper. I mean, he has saved Longford more times in the last 3 or 4 years than anybody else. He's brought off some absolutely outstanding saves, but sometimes his kickouts let him down as well. But the reason I went for Colin Farrell is because that man, he could ping a ball 50 yards right onto a player's chest. Great under a high ball. Great shot stopper. Needs to be a little bit louder, a little bit more commanding, from the 21-yard in. But a really great keeper. I think he has all the attributes. It's just a pity that he didn't play enough county football, but he's still a very young guy. He was a minor. He was a minor in 2010, when 2011 when he played in goals against Clongishton, the championship final. And I remember him coming into the pub in his Mel's uniform the next day when we were celebrating. So he's a very young lad.
Yeah, he's still young. Yeah, good player.
He's only 27. He's only 27, I'd say. 26, 27. So
that's maturity anyway,
Yeah, but I think he's only going to get better, to be honest with you. As I said, it's just a pity he won't commit to the county or whatever the case is. He's been in a few times and he's left, but he's a terrific keeper. And look, at his decision is that he doesn't want to play county football,
Yeah, well, sure, Paddy's in there. Probably hard to get Paddy out of there when he's playing so well too. As you said, sure, he's come to the You have more. You see, you'd have more inside knowledge, you know, of Colin. You'd be seeing him at training the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, so you.
Yeah, Colin would go up. Colin be up at training. Would be up at training an hour before anybody else, kicking balls. He'd go up 3 or 4 times a week, kicking balls. He'd be in the gym 3 or 4 times a week, all on top of what was required as a member of the team. Yeah. So, you know, you couldn't question his commitment. And I do believe he'd be a fantastic county keeper. Maybe he felt he just couldn't get his place against Paddy, who was established.
Well, loads of time left. He's only 27.
There is.
He's
a young man.
Yeah, yeah, but sure, you county final last year, you know, like, it just takes another one. You know, he could be in, as a goalkeeper, you've long career, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And there's plenty left in him. There's a good 7 or 8 years left in him.
Absolutely. All right, next move on. Right corner back and captain, Dermot Brady. He got
look, I think pound for pound, if you're looking for passion, he is the player over the last 20 years in Longford that displays passion in abundance. That grit, that determination, that aggression, that you know, never accepting defeat, even when defeat was staring you in the face at both county and club level. He's the first man you put down on the sheet. He's a real leader, a real motivator. Opposition players don't like him, which I think is a great
as well.
Unbelievable. Yeah. You couldn't have a Longford team over the last 20 years and not have Dermot Brady on your first 15. It would be slanderous, nearly.
Yeah, absolutely. And then
I mentioned Dom O'Glennon because I suppose a little bit like Colin Farrell, and again being loyal to club, because I did work a hell of a long time with these players. Dom O'Glennon was a very, very complete cornerback. Great man to win a ball, 50-50 ball. Great man to burst out. Great man to lay it off. Didn't normally kick the ball that often, but never gave it away. And you know, if you look back at the 3 championships that Slashers won in 10, 11 and 13, he would have been a key player, you know, a real key player that you know, you probably be saying no more than Garrett G. Without those 2 cornerbacks, you probably wouldn't have won any championship.
Yeah, well, should they keep it tight at the back, man? You can't forget about the other end, you know. You got to keep her tight at the back, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know them both from Mel's. My first ever game for Mel's, I'd say I was just junior cert playing for the senior team. I don't know who were playing. I was just either coming out of junior cert or I was still 15. I don't know, one or the other. And it was on the main field in Mel's, an old boggy old field it is, huge. And I got brought on corner back or half wing back maybe. And one of their players came over and gave me a nudge, you know, and I would have been young, you know, like I was, you know, when you're playing senior football and like you're only 15 or 16 and your man give me a nudge, and who was over in 2 seconds? And
Dermot Brady.
No, Dom O'Glennon.
Oh, Dom O'Glennon.
Domo was older. Domo was in leaving cert when I was in junior cert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and no, Dom O'Glennon was straight over to your man and says, "You don't touch him." That's it.
Yeah.
Straight
That's
over.
what you want.
Straight over. And it's one of those things that you never forget. You know, I never forget that. Like, you know.
Well, you know, we talked about what makes up a good team, and it's players that are there for the team, and Dominic was always there for the team, you know.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, let's keep going. Full back.
Yeah.
We're going Slashers again. I thought this was an apt photo.
Yeah, because that's what he was good at, making it difficult for opponents.
Yeah, crippling you. Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I saw Barry playing against Laois in the championship for Longford in Pearse Park about 5 or 6 years ago. Paul Barden was outstanding that day, but Barry was full back and he was marking Bruno. What's his name from Laois? The big, huge full forward, and he was much vaunted player. And you know, Bruno won every ball, right? But he never scored because Barry just shackled him. And if that guy had scored, we won by a couple of points that day. If that guy had got his shooting boots going in the first half, Longford would have been beaten. But Barry just did such a sensational job. And you know, I've looked at a lot of these teams that people have put together over the last week or so, and very few of them have Barry Gillerin on it. But what people need to remember is that from 2006 until 2018, which is 13 seasons, Barry was the number one, number three in the county. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I just think it would have been a travesty not to put him on it. Hugely dedicated, passionate, puts so much effort and commitment into his game. A real baller for a full-back. He could run the length of the field and stick a ball over from 50 yards, like, after running. After running 50 yards, he could do all that. Great centre-back, good midfielder as well. But for me, over the last 20 years, I just felt, not being a slashers man, that you had to include Barry Gillerin, because his commitment to county, the amount of good games he had for the county was, really when the county played really well and won big games, he stepped up. There was honourable mentions as well. Joe O'Donnell from Granard, a tank of a man, tank of a man, and a great man to win a ball. Particularly, the ball on the chest, bursting out with it. What would have been a county fullback for a while in the early part of the millennium. Also included Pat Fox there. He was the reason Mullinachta won the Leinster Club final that day, because he kept Paul Mannion absolutely quiet. Quiet is an understatement. I saw him play some great games for the county. I know Dennis Connerton thought very highly of Pat when he was in with the county as manager. Just feel that maybe there's more to come from Pat Fox over the next 5 or 6 years that we haven't seen the last of. I also mentioned. Pardon?
If they can get a run together, the county, if you've a lot of talent there, a lot of young lads there that they've done it at club level, and if they can all just come together and do it at the same time at county level, you have the chance of beating anyone on their day.
Absolutely, and that is true. And Pat Fox, I do think there's probably 5, 6, 7 good years left in him. I also included there Dara Bennett.
I see that.
Dara was a super player. He got Player of the Year when Kilo won the championship, either in 12 or 15, or 12 or 14. I'm not sure which. I think it was 12. He was an outstanding fullback. He reads the game, brilliantly.
Yeah.
But he left Ireland. I think he's in the UK. Doesn't play football at all now.
Yes.
A massive loss to Kilo. I think if he had stayed around and the likes of Pádraig McCormack wasn't injured for a couple of years, I think Kilo could have 5 or 6 championships in a row if they could have kept the centre of their defence intact during 2016 and 17. But unfortunately, they didn't have Pádraig McCormack. They didn't have Dara Bennett, and it showed in the fact that they didn't win championships.
Yeah. And Carl Conifrey.
And also Carl Conifrey, tank of a man, fierce, reliable. Probably would have put him on the team ahead of Barry, except I just thought Barry was better under the higher ball. Barry brought more pace to the game, more creativity. Cahill did all the simple things right. Really hard man. He'd go through you for a shortcut. But the nod at fullback went to the great Barry Gillerin.
Very good. Now what's next? Left corner back, the Bull.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what the funny thing about it is? Look at when you're putting down 15 players on a team, and one of your choices is Dermot Masterson, you got to put him there. He's a sensational player. I mean, a hugely underrated player. I think if he was playing at corner forward, and getting all the accolades and all the scores, they'd still be talking about him the way they talk about Paul Barden. Bottom line for me is Dermot Masterson has been one of the best county players in the last 20 years, and you've got to put him on the team. I mentioned Garrett Chee as well, and I mentioned Enda Ledwith. Two very.
I forgot to mention Enda on my team. Yeah, Enda, class.
Brilliant player.
Garrett Chee again, I was saying I was watching that 2010 final. A very good final that day as well. Garrett Chee, solid.
Yeah, nothing stylish about Garrett. Very much, catch and get your 4 steps.
Jobs.
Yeah, get your 4 steps in and break a couple of tackles and lay it off to somebody in the half back line. That was Garrett Chee. Never, no more than Dominic Lennon. Very seldom kicks the ball. Dermot Brady very seldom kicks the ball. Garrett Chee was the same, and it goes to show you in the modern game, you don't have to be a kicker to be a baller, and Garrett Chee was just so tight.
Yeah, he gets tough jobs. Like in that final, he was marking Jamesy. Like, you know what I mean? Like that is not an easy job. Like Jamesy is as fit a player as tough. Like Jamesy, I'm looking back at some of those games. Jamesy is as good a player as in the county, to be honest. So he just plays well in every game. Like, and Garrett was very good on him now, I have to say.
Yeah, and Jamesy Martin would have been one of those perhaps that was unfortunate not to get an honourable mention. He won the championship on his own for Dromard in '99. He was absolutely outstanding. But back to Garrett G, I mean, just a tidy player. If you asked me who had the hardest job in 2010, was it Garrett G or Jamesy Martin, I would have said Jamesy Martin, because you know, it was just a big task to go in and try and get ball off Garrett G and get the scores that Dromard needed, and he didn't do it. And that's why Slashers won. He's one of the reasons. And Enda Ledwood, class county player, very stylish, looked the part, a great athlete, prone to the odd mistake, made a crucial mistake in 2004 when we lost to Dublin in Pearse Park. But at the same time, a really tenacious, very fit, very fast defender.
Yeah, very professional.
Very much so. Very much so.
And then went up to Dublin, so we actually didn't get to see a lot of maybe his best part of his career as well. You know, he missed the.
Yeah, but we did see it. We did see it at county level. You know, he was
before that as well. You know, I didn't get to see enough of him as well, because when I kind of was playing, he left and went up to Dublin, so I missed a bit of his club career.
Yeah. Well, I saw it all really. You know,
finals and everything. And they were winning things. So, all right, let's move on.
Let's move on.
Right wing back. Micheál.
Yeah, Micheál Quinn. I mean, do you know what? Mickey Quinn, you could put him anywhere from 5 to 12 on your team. And you could even put him at 14 if you wanted. You know, a really versatile player, very strong, keeps himself in great shape, brilliant conditioning, you know, always fit as a fiddle.
Yeah.
He's been on the receiving end of a lot of abuse over the last number of years on the pitch, in terms of he is the go-to man for Kilo in particular and Longford. So you try to stop him playing. So he's gotten an awful amount of abuse over the years. But he always comes out of the game.
You know?
He always comes out of a game with the lion's share, and that's the important thing. Mickey Quinn is a class act. He'd probably walk onto most county teams.
I always find him good for a goal. I like that. A centre halfback or a centre midfielder that always seems to pop up with little goals here and there. You know what I mean? Like,
you see, Mickey Quinn not only is a defender, but he is huge skill level.
Yeah, he's got the soccer touch as well. You know,
he's a baller. He's a baller, as you say. He knows where the goals are, but he also knows that to score a goal, you got to find a little part of the goal that the keeper can't get to. Mickey Quinn is very good at that, sticking it into the bottom corner, top corner. Great player, great man to get a score, but a great man to drive down the pitch, gain 50, 60 yards, you know, in a blink of an eye. You have to put him in. I mentioned Shane Dowd as well there. Great player for Kilo. Another reason why they won 3 championships, in fairness to him. I put Barry McKeown in there as well. Barry McKeown, when Colm Kill beat Mullinyockta in the championship last year in 2019 in Longford, Barry McKeown gave an exhibition of football that I don't think I've ever seen in Pearse Park before. He was absolutely outstanding. He was the main reason why Colm Kill won. Now, it was a huge team effort, but he stood out like a sore thumb as the best player on that pitch by a country mile.
Extremely talented, very good in the air, very brilliant. Good in the air. Jeez, he's got
great man to score. Can take a free as well. Can
you know, you have him in a wing back, but I like him as a wing forward. Oh man,
could have put him anywhere in the half back line or the half forward line. He's just an outstanding player, you know.
Yeah, outstanding. And Peter Brady there as well. Another.
Look at Peter Brady, just a dog of a man. I mean, he'd go through you for a shortcut. You know, passionate Slashers man, was with the county for a while as well and did play a couple of games for the county, but made his name very much as the first choice number 5 for Slashers for so many years. He's just a brilliant player, and you know, you always felt that little bit secure when you had Peter Brady at 5. Wasn't too sure about him at 3. He didn't like playing in there, and it showed. Maybe he had the wrong attitude to that position. We played him at 3 when we wanted to bring Barry out the field, I suppose particularly towards the end of Dennis's reign with Slashers. But really and truly, Peter Brady was one of the best number 5s that Slashers has ever had. And if you were picking an all-time Slashers team, you have to have Peter Brady on it, I
I was
believe.
helping Smithy with his team, and he was saying the same. He would have wanted to have him in there, wing back. I'd like to thank Ken for the photo. Ken Keenan Photography. I asked him if I could use that. He said no problem. He's taking some good snaps.
Yeah.
All right, next. Oh, sure. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, Pádraig McCormack, you could have played him at fullback. You could have played him at centre forward because he is a former centre forward. But the position for me where he just takes charge is centre half back. I would say pound for pound, the best centre back that Longford has had in the last 20 years and probably beyond. Really, really great team player. Great man to burst out of defence. Great man to lay off a ball. Not a great man to score, in fairness. Doesn't score too much, but what he brings to the game in terms of ability to read the game is just unbelievable. And to add on to that, then the fact that he was out for nearly 2 years with an eye injury that people thought would threaten his career, but no, he had other ideas, and he came back. And as I said already, if he was available for Kilo every year since 2012, until the emergence of Molineux, I think Kilo could have put 4, 5, 6 together if they had him and Dara Bennett. They've lost an awful lot of players over the last 10 years, Kilo. I'll tell you one thing, the day they lose Pádraig McCormack will be a sad day for the club, because he just
what I like about him, he's kind of one of these players. Again, he's not really too loud, you know what I mean? A nice, quiet, placid kind of lad, just kind of gets on with it, and you know what I mean? He doesn't make never see him really like say too much, but then at the same time he'll rock you with a shoulder. You know what I mean?
Look, I always say
watch out, like if he's around, like he'd give it to you. You know, he's got a lot of substance. He's strong, like You
need a mix. You need a mix on your team, Stephen. And Pádraig McCormack, the big quiet man. Beware the quiet man.
Oh, absolutely.
With Pádraig, very much a case of less is more. But he always turns it in. And if you're putting down your team, he has to be on it over the last 20 years. I also mentioned Enda Williams, great servant to club and county. How many counties I don't know. I think 3 or 4 at this stage. I think Enda, did he play for New York? I'm not sure, but certainly he played for London. He played for Leitrim. I'm not sure. Well, anyway, look, he's moving on to, I think, his third.
The minor final there. I watched the county minor final. It was on. Someone posted it there. The Leinster, they won. Jizzy, a good game.
2002. He was the captain. Yeah, great game.
I'll tell you, that was a good team. Yeah, great game. And then I watched. Yeah, he's always there. He's always thereabouts. And Willie.
Yeah. Another man there I mentioned, centre back, Donal McGilligan. Again, you could play him anywhere in your half back line. Super player. Been watching him grow as a county player over the last 5, 6, 7 years, and I mean his contribution to Molineux is massive as well. You need leaders in defence. Molineux had McGilligan and Pat Fox. For me, they're key defenders in their Leinster run. You have to put him there. James McGivney as well. You could have put James at full forward. You could have put him at midfield. You could have put him at centre forward. I put him in as centre back because again, like Pádraig.
Yeah,
like Pádraig McCormack, great man to win ball, great reader of the game, hugely skillful, hugely intelligent. Tends to fade in and out of games, but when he's on song, he's an incredible player. And then finally at centre back, David Blessington, your own club man in Granard, huge county player. When Longford didn't have the stuff, Blessington stood out, and particularly at club level, he was a tremendous player for Granard. But one of those players that you kind of had to say, look at, he's been one of our best county players over the last 20 years. He deserves an honourable mention,
Very good. Yeah, 100% agree with you there. Yeah, and all of them there. You could any one of the 4 could go in there. But
yeah, you wouldn't have any problem if you didn't have Pádraig McCormack. You wouldn't have any problem putting any one of the other 4 there.
Exactly, but Pádraig McCormack though, he's in.
Yeah, serious player.
Serious player.
Serious player.
Jack O'Reilly.
Yeah, look at pound for pound. If you ask me, who's the best player you've ever seen play football? Declan Riley be high up on that list, along with Paul Barden. I mean, packed with skill, packed with intelligence. The most elusive back you'd ever play against. And sure, look at you'd fit him into your pocket. He's a very small guy, very slim guy. but he made up for it in so many ways. His ability to give a ball, his ability to read the ball, his ability to sidestep a player and just move away from him like he wasn't there at all was just incredible. Really, really great player. You know, you don't often say this about a defender, but he was exciting to watch, and you don't get that with defenders normally. But Declan Riley just brought that little bit extra, that little bit of skill, that little bit of flair to a defensive play that very few
Slippery,
players
man.
can do.
Very slippery. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you could, and it's like he'd eyes in the back of his head or something. He'd know
Yeah.
everybody that's around him. You know, great awareness of what kind of space and time he had on the ball, like who was coming on his right, who was coming. It's like he had eyes everywhere. He just knew already how he was going to get out of trouble. You know what I mean? Never got in trouble. Didn't get into trouble. Never mind.
Yeah.
Didn't have to get out of it because he never feckin' got into it.
Yeah, well, that's intelligence, you know, and
yeah,
not every player has it. A lot of players have skill, the speed, the pace, whatever. But you need intelligence as well, and Declan Riley had that in abundance. He was a sensational player. Now, having said that, you know, I give a few honourable mentions here, and I included yourself. I hope you don't mind. I know that injury would have affected your career as a Gaelic player, but I'll never forget the goal against Kerry in the National League. Jack O'Connor's first game in charge, and was it 04? I think it was. You know, that those days when you beat Kerry in a league game and somebody scores a winning goal at the last minute, you have to give them an honourable mention.
Well, I got the honourable mention anyway. That's good.
But look, it wasn't for that. You didn't get it for that, for one piece of skill or one finish. You got it because you had huge potential. You were a massive prospect as a younger player, and I do believe that if injury didn't get in the way, you could have established yourself as one of the greatest county players that we've seen. But unfortunately, it didn't work out for you. Conor Clark as well. He came into our setup in 2011, wing half back. Started a county final at wing half back.
And slashers one day, Clarky.
What's that?
I said he gave me a roasted in slashers one day. We were playing.
You know, I mean, Conor is the most unfortunate player. I mean, lovely lad, passionate slashers. I don't think I've ever come across a player with the same amount of passion for the club. Got involved with so many teams in the clubs over the years, and that's because he has the passion to bring it. But he also has the skill level, the ability. But if he didn't do both cruciates, again, he would have been a cert wing back on the county team, you know, for a period of time over the last 10 years. I don't know if it's too late for him at this stage, but he's certainly making a comeback. He looks in great shape again. But in 2011, he was only a kid, and by Jesus, he stepped up. Serious player. And then I put in Shane Mulligan as well, because he just has what you want in a defender. Aggression. Like if he's marking you, he absolutely hates you for an hour.
I know, he always marks me.
Yeah. So, and in fairness to Shane Mulligan, he could have been one of your six. But if Declan Riley wasn't available, or if Mickey Quinn or Dermot Masterson wasn't available, you'd have no problem reshaping your defence and putting Shane Mulligan into it. Great player, and brilliant for Mullinachta as well.
Yeah, good baller too. Like when he gets the ball as well, he's good on it. You know what I mean? Makes the right.
Yeah, he's
good kick.
Great man to drive. Great man to drive. He reminds me a little bit of Mickey Quinn. I don't know if he has Mickey Quinn's skill level, but at the same time, he does have that ability to drive with the ball. Good control, good solo control on the run.
Yeah, always performs. All right, next, let's move on. David Hanafy, centre mid, same as myself. I went for Hanafy as well.
Yeah, because look at what you're looking for in a midfielder is you're looking for a man who can catch the ball. David Hanafy had an outstanding pair of hands. You're looking at a man that can drive forward. Hanafy could do that. You're looking at a midfielder that can score on the run, can get the return, pop it over the bar. Hanafy could do that. He was just the most complete midfielder. Obviously one of the two most complete midfielders that I've seen in Longford over the last 20 years.
Where would his best years? When would his best years have been?
They would have been in the early part of the noughties, you know.
That long ago, yeah.
Late 90s, early noughties. But to be honest with you, he just had everything. And again, he played on Longford teams that didn't have the fruits of the 2002 Leinster minor win. You know, when the standard of player in Longford maybe wasn't as good. David Hannafy was to the fore. Great player for Drumlish. They won a heap of championships back in the 90s. I think 96, 97, 98. He was a key player for them. Had to put him in. I think himself and Darren Gallagher, the other man I've chosen, really had everything. They had speed, strength, ability to catch a ball, ability to score, ability to take a free, ability to find a man. But just that ability to stop midfielders running at you, they would run at the opposition midfield, was exactly what you wanted, you know.
And great man to give a ball in too.
Absolutely. And then along, like in fairness, Bernard McElvaney in 2006 when Longford were on their great run, he was outstanding in midfield for Longford. Played for years. Never had the benefit of playing senior club football. Always played for Ballymore, intermediate level mainly.
Yeah, but still,
you know,
and at county level,
he could step it up. He could step it up, and that's what you needed. Liam Keenan, another man that played for Arda, who would have been senior for a long time, but also would have been up and down between senior and intermediate. But he was just so consistent for Longford. I would have put Liam Keenan as a starter, and Bernard McElvaney, but Liam Keenan just lacked a little bit of pace going forward and found it harder to get up and down than, say, Darren Gallagher or David Hannafy do. But a great player. David McGivney as well, put him in. He really surprised me when he played at midfield for Longford over the last few years. Didn't think he was as good as he actually was, but a great player and worth a mention. And then finally, Pádraig Farrell from Ballinalee, Sean Connolly's. Not sure how much he would have played in terms of county football after the year 2000, but great club player for Sean Connolly's. Won an All-Ireland with Mells in 87. Great player, great midfielder, great man to score, great man to run with the ball as well. Possibly not the most complete in terms of looking at Gallagher, looking at Hannafy, but definitely worth a mention. So that's David Hannafy.
Yeah, I was thinking about Bernard McElvaney. I was like, geez, when he came back, I think he went off for a year or two. Like, you could have been looking at him there at full forward in at the county, I thought, when he came back. I still thought there was a bit more. He had another year or two in him. I still, think that, but,
he probably did. He probably did, but sure, most players do.
Yeah.
Most players leave the county setup before their time is up. It's, look at James McGivney. He's left the scene. There's years left in him. You'd like to see him back. Yeah, there are other players as well that you'd like to see come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's keep going. Darren Gallagher.
Yeah, look at new kid on the block. He's probably, I'd say he's the youngest player apart from Daniel Mimna maybe on the team. Serious player, serious engine, great team player, exactly the type of player you want in the middle of the field. Great man to tackle, great man to catch a ball, serious set of hands, great man to drive, great man to score, can score a free as well. Pound for pound, he had to be in my top two, even though I'm only really seeing him prosper and develop as a player the last couple of years. There's more in him. I think if Longford had him against Kildare in the championship last year, they'd have beaten Kildare. He was actually working outside the ground that day. Serious player, and I think this man will bring a lot to Longford over the coming 5-6 years, I believe.
Great to watch, you know what I mean? I like watching him just kick the frees off the ground, nice, effortless, things look quite easy. But I tell you, I trained with him a lot, like for Granard and that, and seeing him training, like the power that's there, you know what I mean? Just to break tackles and the big hands on the ball, very, very, very complete player.
Absolutely, very complete. Now, in fairness, I mentioned others. I mentioned others there as well.
Yeah, he's in good company there as well. Looking at
he is I put Niall Mulligan in there, who at county level was more of a wing forward, but at club level for Slashers, I will tell you, when we arrived on the scene in Slashers in 2010, there was no Michael Brady, and we needed a midfielder alongside Davy Sheridan, and Niall Mulligan would have always played in the forward line. And look at myself and Derek Ryan and Dennis Connerton said, we need to take a look at Mulligan in the middle. And he transformed that section of the field for us because his ability to drive with the ball. Yeah. Sometimes his biggest fault was he brought himself into trouble too much, brought himself into the tackle, loved contact.
I know, I was watching him and Bull going at it in the Fine County final there.
Yeah, Yeah, and he just loved contact, and I'd say that's part of the reason why he suffered so much from injury over the years. If he had the speed to be elusive, but he preferred to go right through a man.
Yeah.
But a serious player, and I'll tell you what, alongside Davy Sheridan, who I've also mentioned, we definitely would not have won 3 championships without those 2 players. Davy Sheridan is probably the most intelligent club player I've ever seen play. Again, he can kick the ball, but elects nearly always to fist the ball. He could fist the score coming through from midfield. Great set of hands. Hugely passionate. I mean, the man would be dog ignorant on the pitch with passion for slashers, but off the pitch, you wouldn't meet a nicer gentleman. But he had exactly what it took. He knew our game plan. He stuck to it. Great servant to slashers. Had to get a mention. John Keegan, another fine player. Really, I suppose over the last 3 or 4 years, he's grown as a player. But he decides, I suppose, rightly, that his career is more important. He goes off studying. He leaves the county set up, whatever. I think if we saw John Keegan getting a right run at it, again, you'd have no problem starting him on your team.
Yeah, he's very good athlete, very, very good footballer, good there. Midfield just has the engine for it,
Absolutely. And then just to finish it off there at number 9, another big man, Michael Brady. He would absolutely go through a wall for you. I remember him playing with broken bones in his hand in a county final that we won in 2013. We didn't have Michael Brady in 10 and 11 or 12. I've no doubt we would have won in 12. We would have beaten Kilo in 12 if we had Michael Brady. He was just a huge asset. Probably injury, probably his biggest enemy. He played with broken jaws. He played with broken hands. I remember he had a brace around his head at one stage, but still came back. Massive player.
Good man.
Probably the reason I didn't put him as one of my 2 is because in terms of skill, he probably doesn't have what Hannafy and Gallagher have. In terms of heart, he'd have it in abundance more than anybody there. And he didn't score a huge amount. So look, I'd have no problem if Darren Gallagher or David Hannafy told me they were injured. I'd have no problem putting Michael Brady in.
Any of them, again, the whole four of them.
Any of them.
All right, well, let's move on.
Yeah.
Right wing forward, Trevor Smullen.
Yeah, the athlete.
I didn't put him in mine. It was hard to leave him off it now, to be honest, because I marked him a lot at training and for Longford. Right in that jersey that he's wearing now, look how fit he is there. You just see that he is a nightmare. I'll tell you. Oh God! Of all the people that's hard to mark now, I found him absolutely. He tested you mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. Very wily, gangly. He wasn't an overly tall player, but he could get himself out of trouble very quickly, and he'd score as well. His work rate was huge, up and down the pitch. Tackling, making it hard for opposition. He was just the complete player for me. Now, maybe not skill-wise. He didn't have the skill level of, say, Paul Barden.
In the hands, yes. With the hands, yeah. With the feet, he wouldn't have as much skill. Yeah, he wouldn't be as natural as like Paul.
No.
At the same time, the passing, the hand passing, the cleverness with the hands, the bouncing of the ball, even. He used the ball very well. I mean, the ball is there to be used to the best advantage. And you'd see Smullen with a bounce of the ball, getting himself away from 2 players, and he'd be in the clear. He was just very clever. Reminds you of Declan Riley a little bit. I know one's a defender out and out. Trevor Smullen, you probably could have played him in your half-back line, no problem. But a serious man, serious engine, serious leader of a forward line from wing forward, which is unusual. Just massive work rate. Terrific games for Longford. Scored a couple of points against Dublin in 2004 in Pearse Park when we led 5-1, I think, after about 20 minutes. And I think Smullen had popped over 2 or 3 points at that stage. Great player. Had to put him in. I'm glad you put him in because, honestly, nobody has the amount. I used to mark him at training with Dennis. And Dennis used to purposely put him on me, I think, because he needed me to clever up. I was okay, I was a decent enough player. I was about 20, 21, but all I wanted to do was bomb on forward and, but then he put me on Smullen, and sure, you'd turn your back on Smullen for a second and you'd look around and he'd be 40 yards the other side of the pitch away from you. Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what he was good at. He always seemed to find space for himself,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what you want from a number 10 or a number 12. You want a player who's going to win ball with loads of room to run into. Smullen was just very good at that. And as you said,
anybody that ever marked him had a nightmare.
absolutely. And while his skill level with feet probably wasn't as good as, say, Paul Barden, he could
Didn't
still
matter.
score for you. He
Oh,
could still
yeah.
score for you. You know, and that
Yeah.
an important attribute for a 10 or a 12 is that they can bring in a
Absolutely.
point or two a game for you, you know.
100%. Yeah. And then you have your honourable mentions there.
Yeah, look, do you know what? For 1 year and 1 year only, Butch Nevin won the championship for Slashers in 2013. Thought he was absolutely outstanding. He got himself into peak condition. He came up training in the winter and he was about 3 stone overweight. But come April, he was in the best shape of his life. I remember he dyed the hair blonde for the 2013 championship. He really stood out on the pitch. He destroyed Kilo in the quarter final. Kilo won the championship at 12. Beat us in the final. Expected to hammer us in the championship in 13. They beat the living shit out. Was out in Ballinolea in the round robin stage of the championship. But in Pearse Park, when it really mattered, Slashers just upped their game. And Butch Nevin was the leader of the Longford attack that evening. He was outstanding. Probably not consistent enough to make the team. I gave him an honourable mention because I did think if he stuck at it. Oh, very, very strong, very skillful, could score.
Very skillful, yeah, for a big lad, like good touch, good skill, power, you know. It was actually him that did the video. I don't know, I got Trevor tagged me in the thing, but it was actually Butch's kind of started off. And I liked the way he did it, the way he was like, I know, like, this is the best county players, but I'm going to, you know, tell you about the best players I think, you know. And you know, he kind of made it more like, you know, he was very honest in his video, so I thought it was very, very cool. So that's why
he kind of started all this thing off, and you know, a great initiative within Longford.
He's good cracking around the dressing room too, you know.
Unbelievable, like particularly when things are going his way. You know, I mean, like everybody else, when things aren't going his way, he was a hard man to deal with. But you know, most of the time for Slashers, he never let us down. He always delivered. Particularly, I just thought he had a sensational year in 2013, and I gave him an honourable mention. Podgy Berry, another player who probably, again, if you didn't have Trevor Smullen, you'd have no problem putting Podgy Berry in. Great, tenacious player. And actually, you know, reminded me.
See enough of Podgy. I was away myself when he was turning it on. I was kind of away. I missed a lot of Podgy Berry, but everybody puts him down on their team, like everybody.
Yeah, sensational player, a very young player playing county initially. I remember him playing against Laois. Funny, Laois again, but it was a televised game in the championship down in Port in the first round. Longford were definitely the better team. Berry scored a goal that was given as a square ball. He definitely wasn't in the square when the ball was played, but the rule then was you couldn't be in the square before the ball. It was a very tight call. Berry scored a goal that was disallowed to cost Longford a place in the Leinster semi-final, I think. But anyway, he was a great player, great club player as well for Abilara. Just had everything, that little bit of heart that you'd want. But unfortunately, again, injury destroyed him. And then he moved away. I think he was in Australia for years, so we didn't see the best of him. But when I saw him at his peak, he was brilliant. And then I put in Trevor Clendenning. And I mentioned Trevor Clendenning because, as I said earlier on, I picked him at 10 as a replacement, but you'd never play him at 10. You'd be bringing him back in front of your 3 or your 6, kind of as a sweeper. Did a tremendous amount of work for Slashers in that position so many times that. Again, it's not just about county football, it's about club football. Trevor Clendenning, without a doubt, could have been a county player. Probably was for a while, I think.
Certainly played county. The county panel for a while. But yeah, Trev would have, always good for a few scores as well, you know. But he absolutely very, sacrificed himself a lot on that thing. But then I was watching the final again, as I was telling you, and he fucking came up in the second half and midway through the second half and he got a free. You got a free right in front of the goals, like when you needed it, like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Look at Trevor Clendenning was one of those players who he wanted the best for Slashers. Look at, if there was one player who rang me more than any other player during my 5 or 6 years as a selector with Slashers, it was Trevor Clendenning. He always wanted to know what the mood was like among the management. Were the management happy with what the team were delivering? He just wanted to be a contributor. He wanted to do things right, and he nearly always did. Now, he had bad games too, but
he's always liable to have a wild shot, but then he's often liable to stick a lovely score as well. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You know,
one or the other. It's either going to go sailing over, or it's going to be a bit wide. You know. But,
yeah, and I mean, look, he'll always chance 3 or 4 shots a game,
yeah,
and you know, he'll always get a point or two. You know.
Exactly, and sometimes a goal, sneak in for a goal too.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, key player for us. You know, over the last 20 years, he deserves an honourable mention for what he did for Slashers.
Right, we're on. Vice captain Paul Barden.
Yeah, look,
I think Paul, I'm sure.
Look, I know I've said this a few times already, but if you were to pick, probably you can go longer than 20 years on this. But if you were going to pick an all-time great Longford player, Paul Barden is right up there. He was just a complete player, an athlete, looked the part, great build, great speed, great skill. I remember him picking up a ball off the ground on the run in Croke Park. That one of the Cork players who was a mentor for RTE at the time, can't think of his name. He just said, "Look at that skill." He said, "You don't see that. You know, that's something that came naturally to Barden. Great leader, great man to get a score, great man to beat a player, great skill level on the ball, great leader, just a fantastic player, lovely lad as well.
Blood there, you know.
Oh yeah, and look, you have to have a legacy, and you know, you have to have it in your family before you to really be able to bring it at a peak level. And Paul Barden, he certainly had that, but it was natural. And you know, one of the players that I didn't actually give an honourable mention to, and I should have, was his brother Davy.
I think he might have. I think he might actually on the other wing.
I do actually, yeah. But Paul was just incredible. Now, really, I've seen him score goals from 20, 30 yards out, rockets that you know nobody else could do. He just had that je ne sais quoi. Scored a great goal against Laois in that championship win in Pearse Park as well. Back 5, 6, 7 years ago. Look at great player.
You know, all the videos of all the goals, man. There'd be an awful lot of goals, I'll tell you. You know?
Absolutely. And Paul Barden not only did it at club level, not only did it at county level, but he was a key player for Leinster in the Railway Cup for a number of years, and also a key player for Ireland in the compromise rules games. You know, so he had it. And just to mention as well, Barry Gilleran also played provincial level football for Leinster. So, you know, you're asking why players are included. Well, I mean, with Paul Barden, it goes without saying, but he's done it at all levels.
Yeah. And
I mentioned Paddy Dowd there as well. An honourable mention for Paddy Dowd. Great player. Suffered a lot from injury. Very naturally talented. Fucking really, the skill level that he has was outstanding. But he was inconsistent. He suffered a lot from injury, particularly with his feet and ankles. But he was a great player.
But but he's very natural. I always thought when you watch Paddy, it always looked like he's having a bit of fun out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he just loved being out there, loved flicking the ball up, loved the having shots, and I always thought he looked like he enjoyed himself a lot.
I think sometimes Paddy forgot though. Sometimes he forgot that maybe it wasn't just about him. And you know, he needed to be more of a team player. You're liable to shoot from anywhere. He could score 10 points one day and he kicked them all wide the next day. That was his only downfall. But a massive player,
very,
lovely
very
lad.
Oh yeah,
lovely lad as well. And you know, when he was at his best, he was brilliant.
100%. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Who are we on? Left half forward. Yeah, I did. You gave Daniel Mimna his left half forward.
Look, I kind of had to. I mean, I think over the last 3 years, he's been the best player in Longford. Won a championship for Killaloe last year. His contribution in that final, which was a very poor final, by the way, but his contribution stood out. He got the man of the match. I've seen him doing it at county level over the last number of years as well. Again, I think with Daniel Mimna, he's only 25 years of age. The best is yet to come. Probably the same.
25, Geez,
25,
I
yeah.
thought Daniel as well, and I thought Daniel and Padraig and a few of them in there in Mel's, but
Yeah.
yeah, to be honest, they were good students, good lads, like they were clever lads, and he's another clever footballer. You know what I mean? Like when they have the ball, you don't do anything silly with it. You know what I mean? They're always very very level headed, very fit as well. Daniel Mimner.
Yeah, but look at Daniel Mimna. He covers so much ground. He
Yeah.
has an engine. He has an engine that I've never seen the like of before. He keeps going for 70 minutes. He's always popping up. He's always latching onto a move, racing through the centre. Great man to score. Great man to win ball. I remember under enormous pressure in 2012. Remember, that's 8 years ago. He was only 17 years of age in the county final against Slashers. We were leading 12 points to 11. Mimna wins the ball around
Listen to it on
50.
the radio.
Wins the ball 50 yards from goal, takes a solo, looks up and shoots over an equaliser right over the black spot from the 45-yard line.
Yeah.
I mean,
there you go. But he's bringing it to county level now as well, which is great to see.
He is, and he's a real leader with Kilo, and there's years left in him. There's 10 years left in him, at peak level. Well, certainly 7 or 8 years, I think he's probably the one player on the team that we still have to see the best of him, and yet he's on the team. So that'll tell you how good he is,
Yeah, exactly.
I mentioned Mark Smith at wing forward as well. Mark wouldn't have the pace or the engine that Daniel Mimna would have, but in terms of natural talent and skill, very few have that level of natural talent and skill that Mark Smith had. Could score from anywhere, and I mean anywhere, from any distance, from any angle. Little bit lazy, he'd probably tell you that himself, but certainly a brilliant player. So skillful.
Yeah, I think enjoyed his football a bit too. Enjoyed.
Yeah, but there were times when he didn't, and you could see that when he wasn't enjoying it. But when he was enjoying it,
when he wasn't injured, he was flying. He enjoyed his football.
He had awful difficulty with his back for a young man, but he's very tall, and I suppose to be sporty and to play the game that he wants to play, he's probably that little bit too tall for it. But look at his back suffered. But as a natural player, brilliant. Mentioned Davy Barden as well. Great player. You could put Davy anywhere as well. You could probably put him midfield.
So put him midfield. I was watching another final there. I'm going back watching all those finals from that are being put on Facebook there. Yeah, geez, yeah. Davy Barden centre mid. Tell you.
Yeah, great player, But look, I haven't said that. I picked him at 12 as a replacement because you could put him in the corner as well. Great man to get a score. But you know what? I've seen him miss a lot of chances over the years. I've seen him underperform. The ability was there, but sometimes the results didn't reflect the ability. That's probably why I didn't start him. I think he was one of those players that you knew it was there, but you weren't sure if you were going to get it every time.
You didn't know which position. You're like, you can play him in the corner, you can play him in the half, you can play him in the middle. He's always getting moved around. He's not like, Paul or these lads that just, centre forward usually there. Like some people just have a position. Like Daniel Mimna, left half forward. That's where he's playing. Maybe you could play him half back, but not. Davy Barden was always getting kind of moved around. But he's a very good player.
Yeah, but you know what, Stephen? In the modern game of football, your jersey number really doesn't reflect anything except the fact that you're playing. You could have somebody selected at 15, but they'll spend most of their time out helping 8 and 9 or helping 3 and 6. Yeah. I mean, when you're looking at a man marking game, in particular, the number means nothing. You could be anywhere on the pitch. Davy Barden just sometimes, he didn't deliver, but when he did, he was brilliant. And don't get me wrong. To get an honourable mention on a team going back 20 years is not a slight on a player. There's an awful lot of players. There's an awful lot of players that didn't get any mention at all.
Yeah. No, Davy Barden definitely. Yeah, as you said, when he was on, I'll tell you, there was few better. When he's on, when he's in the zone, I'll tell you. Remember the game against Kerry that we beat when we beat them? He just turned it on a bit that day, And when he does, he's up there with anybody. And Paul Kelly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned Paul Kelly, plagued with injury. Butch Nevin christened him Pearse Park Paul because he never seemed to be fit for the early stages of the championship. But then he comes to Pearse Park and he turns it on in the quarter-final, semi-final and final. Won a man of the match as well for Slashers in one of our wins. great player. You know, he didn't have it all. I mean, sometimes his skill level let him down. His solo let him down. He had an awful tendency to overcarry the ball. He was pulled up loads of times for that. But he did win championships for Slashers. There is no question about it. Without him, we wouldn't have won. You know, definitely. I mean, he's an outstanding player. But just so unlucky with injury, I didn't see enough of him over the last 20 years to put him in as a starter. He probably would have been the one that would have got Daniel Mimna's position because Daniel is so young, except I didn't see enough of him. But he a tremendous player, blessed with natural pace, fastest player I ever saw. Probably went against him more times because of the fact that he was so fast that he was taking 6 steps without knowing it, and would have been pulled up. But a really great player. I think injury frustrated him in the end, and we didn't get to see the best.
Excellent. No, good player, definitely. No, they're all good players there. Next, who's up next? Wait. All right, right corner forward.
I went for Sean in the end here. I went for 2 big men in the full forward line and a small man. Could have gone 2 small and 1 big. I just thought Sean's contribution for Longford, I think 1 year he was top scorer in the National League, at least 1 year. And when you can do it at county level, you know, initially when you're doing it, you're saying he's a flash in the pan. But when you keep doing it, the level of consistency, you know, you begin to admire the player. And then I saw him for Kilo, particularly in 2012. I mean, his ability to score from out near the sideline, deadly accurate player. Really good player. Good team player as well. With Sean, the only problem was he was in and out of games a bit. But still, for me, if you wanted to go-to man, if you wanted to score from 30, 40 yards out, he had no problem giving the ball to Sean McCormack, and that's why I put him in that team.
And good longevity there. He's been around a good while now as well at the top. You know, like just
he has. I think he's maybe. Well, he certainly finished at county level, and he's probably considering his club future as well. He just got married.
Yeah, but
you know, over the years, he's been an incredible player. I also mentioned 2 other players in this position. Kieran Fox from Sean Connolly's, great county player. Probably didn't play much football into the noughties. Probably played most of his football back in the 90s at county level, but a great player, no question about it. And you know, great pace, great man to win a ball, great man to get a score, great man to drive at a defence. You know, definitely worth an honourable mention. As was Colin Smith. Didn't really take on a player, but a great man to win a ball and deadly accurate. You know, when we won championships in 10, 11 and 13, Colin Smith was scoring an average of 7, 8, 9 points a game. And when you have a player like that, you know he deserves an honourable mention.
100%. Top scorer in the championship, I think, a few years, was it?
3 or 4 years, yeah. But look, the bottom line is this. If you were picking an all-time Slashers team, he'd be on it. Definitely.
Right, let's keep going. Cav, full forward.
Yeah, look at again. There was Niall Sheridan. There was Robbie Smith. Could have put Robbie in the corner, but you know, if you're putting Robbie in the corner with Brian Kavanagh and Sean McCormack, you're looking at a forward line that probably doesn't have electrifying pace. Unlucky not to make it. I think. Look at Robbie. In many ways, he'd be his own worst enemy. Probably commitment level wouldn't be there at county level as much as perhaps it could be or should be. Terrific player. Saw him really turn it on for Robbie Lara.
I played Mark Niall once, and I got absolutely roasted in ground one day. And I marked Robbie as well, and he's hard-handled too. 2 very good players. Yeah.
Niall Sheridan was a terrific player. I mean,
Niall was. I didn't appreciate it until I marked him once, and I only marked him for half a game. Joe Mulvihill thought it was wise. I don't think it was wise at all. He put me on Niall for about, I don't know, was it half game? And Niall was actually quick, over 10 yards there as well. If the ball was coming in right to him, I think
Sheridan's biggest problem, and probably the reason why he didn't make it on my team, is that he had to win the ball, give or take the edge of the square, or maybe 15, 20 yards from goal. You'd never see him winning a ball at wing forward. It wasn't his job, but I think with Kavanagh, who I went for, Brian Kavanagh in the end, Brian Kavanagh could win a ball anywhere. I saw him score sensational scores against Monaghan there when we beat them in the qualifiers a few years ago. But I've seen him do it at the top level, even in 06 against Kerry. He had an outstanding game that day, scored a great goal as well, won every ball that was kicked into him, like against one of the best teams in the country, a team that went on to win the All-Ireland. Kavanagh was an outstanding player, but he was an outstanding player as well for Kilmacud for a number of years. Top scorer in the All-Ireland Club Championship, has an All-Ireland Club medal, a couple of Leinster medals as well.
Brilliant.
Much vaunted when he was with Kilmacud, and a huge loss to Arda. Probably I'd say contributed to the fact that they play intermediate football now, the fact that he didn't make himself available for them. But pound for pound over the last 20 years, Brian Kavanagh has given it at all levels,
Great man
particularly
to
at county
win a
level.
ball. Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean,
Yes.
and not blessed with outstanding pace, but still could win a ball. That 2 yards away, used his arm very well as well to shackle off players.
Exactly.
In the process
Hold you
of
off
winning
with one arm, pat it out with the other arm, pick it up and gone then.
Gone, and very, very accurate, and you really had to put him in the team. Look, you could have put Sheridan, you could have put Robbie Smith, you could have picked a host of other players, but for me, Brian Kavanagh definitely deserves 14, definitely.
Left corner, he went for Philly, Stephen Phillips.
Yeah, look at people will say I'm biased. If I was biased, I would have put 15 Slashers men on the team. I did mention a lot of Slashers players. I just think this guy, Stephen Phillips, one of the most underrated players that Longford club football has ever seen, particularly I'd say ever. I mean, this guy had it all. His ability to finish. Dennis Connerton said of Stephen Phillips, he's one of the best finishers he ever saw. Dennis doesn't say that lightly. Stephen Phillips could go out and score 2-5 from 10 possessions. That was his ability with the ball. Again, he probably didn't play enough county football. I don't know whether, even by his own admission, he might have just lacked commitment to play county football. But he was hugely passionate about Slashers. He loved the buzz. He loved winning championships. I know I never saw him happier than I saw him the night in 2010 when we beat Dromard in the final in McKeown's later that night. He was, you knew it meant so much to him. He'd been there or thereabouts for a number of years, played in a couple of finals. He'd been Slashers' number one player when Slashers were, I suppose, in transition under Desi Barry. He was the one that always stood out, and you knew that if you could get the players around him and get a good settled Slashers team, that he was going to win championships, and he did. He won 3 of them. And I'm delighted to put him on the team.
You need a forward that's going to win the ball and use it. Like with vision, pass it around, link up the play. You know what I mean? A lot of work that kind of goes unseen as well. You know what I mean? Like these little connecting up, linking play, getting other lads on the ball, coming through, and you have big boys running through the middle. You need a corner forward who's going to win the ball and see them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and I tell you what, Colin Smith wouldn't have been the top scorer in the championship without Stephen Phillips, because Stephen Phillips was fouled more times for free. It was just unreal. And Colin's popping him over the bar, because Stephen Phillips' ability to win the ball was like no other player that I've seen playing for Slashers. Look, I could have put Podgy Davis into that position. I could have put Frankie McGee. I could have put
a couple of boys in Granard would say, lie in when you're in corner forward there, lie in. Big Jack Rourke used to say it. And that's the thing, Philly would always hold his run. He wouldn't go drifting out, you know what I mean? He'd hold his run in there. So he'd always have that late run inside, you know what I mean? A lot of corner forwards are running out wild. They're out in the wing by the time they have the ball. You'll always see Philly picking up the ball in a place where he's going to be doing a bit of damage, you know what I mean?
Yeah, normally 20 yards from goal, but it was just his ability to time that run to the exact second where he got 2 or 3 yards on his man, and once he got a bit of space, he could take on the man. He could score. He was often fouled. He very generous player as well. He'd always give the ball to a player in a better position. And really, I'm delighted to put Stephen on the team, because I do think he's underrated. As I said, Podgy Davis, probably again, Podgy played most of his big football at club level in the late 90s for Drumlesh. Great player with the county, great man to get a score. Remember him being terrific against Dublin in Portlaoise in the championship. I think it was 2001. He scored 6 or 7 points that day. Saw him play big games for Longford in Croke Park as well. Certainly could have put him in. I probably would have put him in, except for most of his achievement was before the year 2000. Frankie McGee, another player, that sensational player for Dromard. Very elusive, great man to get a score, deadly accurate, probably one of the most accurate players. He didn't have the same ability to win a ball that some of the other players that I've mentioned, like Brian Kavanagh and Stephen Phillips. And he could be brilliant and he could be shite. And again, he was more often brilliant than shite.
Got an injury there, yeah, with the Achilles around the time of your final as well. Yeah, that was a tough injury, you know what I mean? The Achilles injury is a nightmare, you know what I mean?
But you know what? In 2010, when we beat Dromard in the county final, Stephen Phillips was outstanding for us. Frankie McGee didn't have the same impact for Dromard, and that's probably one of the reasons why I swung it. And I just think Stephen Phillips did so much for Slashers, winning 3 championships, that you had to include him. And again, I've worked with him closely, as a selector with Slashers, that I'd seen so much of him that I had to include him. Also, Kieran Williams, another one of those players who could have been so much better than he was. Could have played more county football. Do you know what about Kieran Williams? Was a very casual player. He looked like he wasn't putting in the effort, but he was winning ball 9 times out of 10. Just his conversion let him down a little bit. Could have given an honourable mention to Joe O'Brien as well there, a deadly accurate player for Clongish. Rian Brady is another one I mentioned as well. He's going to be an outstanding player.
Yeah.
You know, he's only 23, becoming 24 this year. And I watched him growing up when I was involved with my own son. With underage in Slashers with my son Rory. We would have come across a lot of those Northern Gales players, and Rian Brady and what's his name, Matthews in the other corner, young Matthews, can't think of his first name. JJ's brother. He sang the song in the dressing room after the.
You're going to have to dig yourself out.
Oh, Jason Matthews.
Yeah, Jason. I don't get that. What?
No, JJ is his brother.
He was a good player too.
Yeah, he was, in fairness.
He went off to America.
He did. But look, Rian Brady definitely is going to be. He reminds me of Bernard Flynn that used to play for Meath. He's just this ability to get a ball, turn and pop it over the bar. Yeah. Which is exactly what you want from a corner forward.
He's a bit like Philly, actually.
A little bit, yeah. And again,
they're very
so
confident
young
on the ball, like very, very good touch. You know what I mean? Like very, very good to get the ball, the toe, like just to solo the ball, and even if you've got players around you, very good control over the ball. You know?
Yeah, very accurate as well. Doesn't kick too many wides. Yeah. But certainly, if I was picking this team in 5 years' time, I've no doubt he'd be on it. No doubt.
Yeah. Right, one more. I think we have Bonish Store, I presume, Dennis Connerton.
Yeah, look at. I suppose I thought I knew a lot about football, right? I was 30 years of age what was I? I was 40 years of age in 2010. And Dennis gave me a call and asked me would I select with him with Slashers alongside Derek Ryan. And I kind of said, oh, geez, I was very busy at the time. I was working on radio. I was in the bank. I was on the road. And he rang me again and he says, well, you're going to do it, aren't you? And I kind of hadn't made my mind up, and I was more going towards no than yeah. And I just said, fuck it, I'll do it. And I thought I knew a lot about football until I worked with Dennis Connerton. You should see the way that man operates. Yeah. He's got a game plan. And, you know, when we were winning some meetings with the team, ahead of every championship fixture, and you nearly knew more about the opposition
than they knew about themselves.
He just left no stone unturned.
I remember.
Sorry?
I remember well with the county. Yeah. He doesn't leave any stone unturned. You there? Hello?
Am I getting you back?
You got me back.
That's it, Jay. I have you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, well, we might wrap it up soon enough, though, because I don't know if my battery's going or what's going on here.
Yeah, I know we're hopping all over the place. But anyway, look at Dennis Connerton, best man I ever worked with. The details that he went through
Ozzy in the background there. Shout out to Ozzy Hackett too.
Ozzy, another great man. You'd always want him on your backroom team, you know, and Derek Ryan. But look at the bottom line, Dennis Connerton, best man I ever worked with. Taught me a lot about the game. I thought I knew a lot about the game being a commentator on radio. I knew damn all. Dennis taught me more than I even knew. Do you know what I mean? He was an incredible man. No stone unturned. Got the diet right as well. Got the extra work out of players that was required, got the commitment, got the respect. A really great leader off the pitch, and without doubt for me, the best manager that Longford have ever had. And I'd love to see him manage Longford with 15 players that could win a Leinster championship, because if you pick that 15 that I've picked there now, Dublin would be afraid of that 15 if all 15 were available. I'd love to see Dennis taking charge of that team, because I do believe that Dennis is the best manager that Longford has ever had.
Very good. Very good. Well, I agree with you there. On my time with Longford, he was fantastic. So absolutely.
Yeah, look, and he's not there to make friends either, Stephen. And I think that's very important.
He got you to do that.
Yeah, well, that was my job, to motivate and keep people happy.
Right.
But at the same time, he taught me a lot about football as well. But bottom line, a great leader and a great man, and a very good friend as well. And believe it or not, he actually taught me in second class in St. Michael's when he qualified for the first time. Back in 1978, he taught me in St. Michael's, believe it or not.
Yes, I'll be managing teams now with Podgy McCormack and Daniel Mimra down in the future now. In 20 years time. All right, man. Listen, it's great to talk to you, Benny.
Yeah, look, I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope we didn't go on.
And I don't know, everybody's kind of all inside, and just I thought it'd be interesting just to get your thoughts and see what you think. And I think it's a great team, man. It's up there. Everybody can see it. Thanks a million, man. All right.
Thanks a million, and listen, great to be asked. And
I
hope you get lots of interest in this.
Cheers, well, whatever, man. We'll see how it goes.
Lovely.
All right. Good luck.
Cheers. Bye bye.